The Australian Grand Prix has finally been postponed, and, well, it may not be that bad of a thing. Chaz Mostert will race in TCR, and Imola will return for another year. All this on the Burnt Rubber Show. Well, starting off, we have to mention that, well, the Australian Grand Prix has been officially not cancelled, postponed. Now, I believe I may have talked about this in the first episode of Season 1, which was a few days ago. But, well, the calendar's changed, and it won't be the first time that the F1 calendar does change in 2021. The Australian Grand Prix and the Chinese Grand Prix have been postponed, with the Australian Grand Prix now having a date in November as the third last round of the championship. China, we're still not certain about what's going to happen with that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that cancelled for yet another year. Well, for an Australian, this news isn't terrible. You see, supercars or V8 supercars always runs an event at the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit. Well, obviously it's been postponed, and well, supercars kind of anticipated it in a way for it to be cancelled or postponed. So they said if it gets postponed or cancelled, well then we will just have our second round of the championship a few miles down the road in Melbourne or Dandenong at Sandown. Sandown has actually held the Australian Grand Prix before. Well, not F1, but it definitely has held the Grand Prix before. And, well, with supercars going to Sandown, that just means we get an extra round added onto the original 12-round championship. Supercars haven't said they're 100% going to go to the Grand Prix again. You see, they go to New Zealand. That's completely fine. You have about 2 weeks off after the New Zealand round at whatever circuit. They still haven't announced which circuit they'll race at, either Hampton Downs or Pukekohe. That doesn't matter. What matters is that, well, if you go and look at where the Grand Prix slots into, well, then you've got 1 week between the Grand Prix and the final round of the championship, which is in Gold Coast. You go from Melbourne to Gold Coast. That's a big job for the teams, and especially in a climate where we don't know where we'll be in a few months. Who would have known in February of last year that the Victorian-based teams would have to go on the road for 100 odd days and not see their families, not have a workshop of their own to work out of? They had to work in farms. They had to work out of local car dealerships. It was hard, and who knew that was going to happen? It's going to be interesting to see what supercars do, and well, I am very intrigued. I think we're going to see news about the support categories that go to Sandown, because originally it was going to be just the Porsche Carrera Cup. But why not say, yep, Super 2, you can come as well. They don't run Super 2 at the Grand Prix weekend because it's already a stacked support lineup. I think that's the reason, because they usually have TCR, S5000, Australian GT, Porsches, V8 supercars. That's a lot. So I think they will have Super 2 combined with Super 3, of course, so we have a bigger grid. I think that's the case. I think we'll have Super 2 and Super 3 there. Porsche Carrera Cup, of course, will have to be there if they were on the Australian Grand Prix support category lineup. S5000, it hasn't been confirmed that it was going to go there, but it was intriguing because there's one TBC round, and that TBC round, well, who knows what they're going to do. There's a lot of speculation that they would just say, yep, let's go to the Grand Prix like we did in 2020, but then it got called off. I don't think they will have S5000 on the Supercars weekend, judging by the fact that S5000 is not actually, well, a Supercars series, and the only reason I can think of that TCR and S5000 go to the Grand Prix is because it's not a Supercars event. Yeah, sure, Supercars and Porsche Carrera Cup Australia, they run there, but they don't actually kind of own the event, do they? I wouldn't mind seeing Australian GT there, possibly Touring Car Masters, and maybe, just maybe, Super Utes or Toyota 86s. There's a lot of things you can do with that event now that there's, well, no F1, none of the support categories that were going to be there, so you can definitely fit in some more series at Sandown. Now, into TCR land, and more specifically, TCR Australia. Now, well, there's lots going on in TCR land, and, well, it's kind of a breath of fresh air for Australian motorsport. You see, Supercars is obviously the big boy series, so, well, that's going to have the best drivers. Well, not if you've got Chaz Mostert. Don't worry, Chaz Mostert's not leaving Supercars, but he will run an event at Symmons Plains just to prepare for Supercars. And now, this is a great thing for Australian motorsport. Why, I hear you ask? It's bringing nostalgic feelings that drivers can just drive in whatever series they want. If they want to drive in TCR, so be it. It's the off-season. Go drive in TCR, get prepared. You can't go over to the Daytona 24 this year, so, well, why not drive in TCR? Symmons Plains is going to be a crazy weekend, that's for certain. You've got S5000 there, TCR, Trans Am, Touring Car Masters. It's just going to be an incredible weekend, and when you've got Chaz Mostert there, driving with some of the best in the business in TCR land, well then, yeah, it's going to be good. And, well, it's going to be sponsored by Bostik, which is a blue tack company. They make blue tack. And, of course, glue. I remember back in the day at school when you used to have the Bostik glue sticks and whatnot. Quite cool to see. And that's not the only livery that's been announced. Well, just look at James Moffat's livery. My golly gosh, is that beautiful compared to previous years. Well, let's see who else ends up on the TCR grid. And it should be an awesome summer. Well, here in Australia, it's summer. And New Zealand as well, because Andre Heimgartner and Shane Van Gisbergen are racing in the New Zealand Grand Prix. Now, I've talked about how the Australian Grand Prix and Chinese Grand Prix are postponed. Well, Bahrain will be the first round, and Imola, 3 weeks later, will be the second round of the championship. Now, obviously, we saw Imola in 2020, and it was alright. I've seen worse races. I think it's definitely just going to be just cool. It's Imola. You've got Fernando Alonso back at Imola. Nostalgic, am I right? Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting season. Monaco and Baku, and probably Montreal. Forget it. Just don't run those events. Quickly cancel them. And we still got a to be confirmed Grand Prix, which is either going to Turkey, Malaysia, or to Portugal. And, well, it's a short episode, I know, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you sometime soon. Dubai 24 Hours is this weekend. May see some content on it. But anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next video.